a powerhouse in the real estate industry joining us. Dean Clark, top producing real estate professional, about 950 sales. That's either Jesus or Dean Clark.
Oh my, been in the game now for 15 years. Like, here, memorize this script and you're going to make $1 million. We have a serious lack of belief in this industry. Stop trying to look good when you don't know anything. This is the first ever that I've ever seen national level virtual like gym membership for agents that want to prospect, if that makes sense.
So welcome back to another episode of The Winner's Code. This is a show where we dive deep into the mindset, habits, and strategies that fuel the success. Today we have a powerhouse in the real estate industry joining us, someone who truly embodies what it means to be a winner. Dean Clark, top producing real estate professional. I think your town is Hoboken, New Jersey, Jersey City.
Hoboken, yes.
Okay, awesome. And I also have down here, Dean, that you've closed over your career about 950 sales, which is incredible. But
Yeah.
you know what truly sets you apart isn't just the numbers; it's your market expertise, it's your unwavering client dedication, and what I see is an incredible leadership that has propelled you and your team to the very top. Not only does Dean do that, but Dean also created a company called the Phone Warriors, which is a movement, I would call it, a podcast that brings together the elite real estate professionals to master the art of prospecting. I've been on, it's a daily Zoom-based call environment where top agents really, what's fascinating about it, it pushes agents to get to new heights, staying accountable, and honestly, it motivates you every single day. Another thing that Dean's been doing, he's been coached by some of the most influential figures in the real estate industry. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Dean to the show. And Dean, do you remember how long we've known each other?
Oh my gosh, I don't actually. Tell me.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've only known each other for about a year.
What?
And, it's nuts. It feels like we've known each other for such a long time.
It was a lot longer than that, my friend. Wow.
I know. And here's what's interesting about it. So we met at Watson Powers event, and before that, I was like, everybody would come up during these breaks and come talk to you. And I tapped the guy next to him. I go, "Who is this guy?" And he goes, "That's either Jesus or Dean Clark." So
Oh my,
Jesus is in the room. It's
oh
Dean
my God.
Clark.
That's so
And
funny.
the truth is, everybody would come up to you. It was like confession. You would say, say 4 Hail Marys or whatever, and lead them on their way. Everybody left your scene, and honestly, God, you listen intently, and really, I'm grateful to have this opportunity to spend a few minutes with you. So, without further ado, here's Dean Clark, and really, what I wanted to talk to you first and foremost about, Dean, is your journey to success. Could you?
Wow. I mean, what an incredible intro. I don't know if I deserved all that, but thank you. And yeah, been in the game now for 15 years. And the first 7 years of my career, I was on a team as a buyer's agent. And then the second half of, now where I'm at now, 8 years later, I've been on my own. I just started my 8th year on my own as an team leader agent, but doing my own stuff, right? And so it's been a very interesting journey, to say the least. And I feel like if there's anything that, when you look at the story that I've had, and like I had, like many of us, right? You have 1 foot in, 1 foot out in the beginning. You're not really sure if it's going to work out. You're kind of figuring this out as you go. And then something clicked, and I was like, okay, I had that, if you guys remember Floor Time, right? This is a thing that we used to do back in the day. I'm still old enough in the game to have that happen, that we don't have that anymore. But so with Floor Time, it was at Color Banker at the time, and I remember getting a call from a couple that wanted to see a $1 million condo in Hoboken. And I was like, okay, I'm 26 years old. I have no idea what I'm doing, how to say things. Like, this is not the Dean that you know today, right? And I ended up showing this condo, like it was like the same day. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can show it to you. Sure. Let me verify, whatever. So I go in there, And they're like, yeah, we want to make an offer. I'm like, great. And this is 2011. So this is not a great market. It's not a robust. There's multiple offers. It was like negotiating, whatever. I think it was listed for like 1.6. They offered like 1.35. And I was like, what? What's going on? What are we doing? Do I have to do something? It was just so crazy. So, but what happened was we ended up doing the deal. I negotiated the deal. I was very focused. I had very early signs of, okay, there seems to be money on the line here. I need to like be focused on the conversations and listen to the both parties and make sure we can do this. So we ended up doing the deal for 1.4, and I'm still in touch with those clients today. It's crazy, and we are in a position where um, it just dawned on me when I got that commission check. It was about $20,000 after split. So sizable check, right? I'm 26 years old in the depression of a real estate market and stocks. And I'm like, well, I have a couple different options now. I mean, this basically, and by the way, my rent back then, Mike, you want to hear something crazy? My rent back then was $365 for my room, all utilities included. So just to give you some perspective, like I lived in dirt, even though I grew up in a very nice suburban, environment, have great parents and everything. I chose to live in the city in like just urban, just let me just feel it. I wanted to just feel what it's like to struggle and come on the come up in every which way. So anyway, fast forward to like that experience, I had a couple, it gave me choices. And that's the beautiful thing about having money is that you were able to have options. And that's if there's anything you want to strive for is have the ability to have some options and do what you have to do. So anyway, long story short, I went from there. I made the decision to follow my effort, not my passion at the time was in between like trading stocks and also being a trader because I was doing that before I got into real estate to then being a musician. I actually went back to being in a band around that same time. And then, but when I made the money, I was like, okay, let me just commit to this for maybe 5 or so years, see where it goes. And if I can really make some real money here, I can go back into the band thing later and do what I have to do. Funny that now.
I'm gonna stop you right there for 1 second. I'm very curious. So you're in a band,
Yes.
you're trading stocks, you're in real estate, you're doing it all. The environment that you're in, what are your parents saying? What are your friends saying? I mean,
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So I was made fun of a lot for living in the squalor that I chose to live in because everyone knew I had a choice to just live back home or to get a nicer place if I made a little bit more money or get the jobs that my peers were getting. They were teachers, they were accountants, they were attorneys. They went to school for that stuff. I had barely a college education. I graduated by the skin of my teeth, and it was like so. And my mother was flabbergasted that I would even live in this place. And she saw my apartment. She's like, "What is this?" And my friends would make fun of me. They're like, "Oh, you look like you're living in like an earthquake zone, some third world country." Anyway, so I was raked over the coals for that for years verbally, but it taught me an important, very important lesson. And I'll never forget, though, this is the power of choice. And this is why choosing what you want and deciding what you want to do is so important in life. Because when I made that $20,000 commission check, that was the biggest money I've ever made in one shot deal. And I said to myself, okay, I have the ability. I think the cost of buying my seat back at the trading desk was around 10 or 12,000 at that time. And then basically the way that it worked at prop desk was that you give them some money and then they would leverage you about 100 grand or whatever they chose to give you based on your skill set. And then you would just use the company's money and trade, and they would take half the profit, you would take half the profit. That's how trading is done. So I could buy my seat back, or I could follow my effort and just do what I was doing. I was like, well, I made the money from real estate showing one property. I was like, if it's this easy to make $20,000, I think I can make a run at this. So I chose to stay in real estate, and 14 years later, here we are.
well, you said the word easy, and you've been in real estate for 15 years, and we can have an honest, conversation about that. I think there's a simple process. Easy is probably not the right terminology. And Dean, I think success in some level, and when it gets described to you, and this is how it's been described to someone like myself too, is like you're taking off in an airplane, and as you start to climb, you go in clouds. And really, there's a lot of turbulence in those clouds, and you really don't see success until you're through the clouds. So in your early years, you're not seeing the success. You're just envisioning what's going to be like over those clouds. So what did that look like? And how did you go, boy, oh boy, I know once we get through this turbulence, we're going to be successful.
No, you don't know. You don't know the how. I mean, let's just be honest. No one, if you have a playbook, this is how you make $1 million in a year in real estate. There is no playbook for that. I mean, yes, there's like systems and other things you can learn, but it's always a development, right? Right, Mike? It's never this like here, memorize this script and you're gonna make $1 million. Like if that's all it took for agents to memorize scripts and they would make $1 million, that doesn't make you right. It doesn't work that way. So
Right.
I was very fortunate that I, you know, I had really good parents, and my father especially like was very instrumental in like just helping me see through that like you don't want to get a normal job. You want to work on your own schedule, your own time, and create something because that's the only way you're going to get through and make anything of your life. And don't do what I did for a little half of my life. And then I got into the entrepreneurship stuff. It was like, right. So I didn't know how, but it didn't matter. It was like an ethos. It was just like what it was that the books that I read, I was very, again, it was like early on, I was like 16, 17 years old, and I was reading success books and Think and Grow Rich and things like that. So for me, it was basically morphed into my mindset and my psyche that it's just going to happen the more you believe in it. But of course, I had a lot of belief and I was a hard worker, but I had something stopping me, which I talk about now. I couldn't verbalize this, Mike, for years. I didn't know what was happening because I was like, I'm working so hard. Like I'm a hard worker. Like I'm working 60 hours a week. I'm showing properties at the wazoo. Going on listing appointments. I thought so I was. Funny story. I mean, like I was on my first listing appointment ever that year it was 26 when I made that commission check. I'll never forget how embarrassing this was. Just to show you, right? I'm listing anywhere from between like eight to 10 properties a month now. And
Wait,
back then,
8 to 10 a month.
yes.
And how many years in the business?
Uh, oh no, I'm doing this now.
Oh,
But
doing it now. Okay. I'm sorry.
yeah. But I'm saying like it. But
Yeah.
I was doing that about 3-4 years ago at that point. But what I'm
Okay.
saying is before that, when I didn't know anything,
Yeah.
like if I could do that, knowing this story, it's gonna blow. It's no one knows this. I didn't never share this actually with anybody yet. But I'll never forget. I had a referral. It was a listing referral. Oh my gosh, right? I go in. I have no scripts. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I talked to my broker of record at the time. I said, "Can you help me with this? Like I don't know what I'm doing." So I plopped down these comps and some marketing materials that was given to me, and I just sat there and I just did this. And I didn't know what to say. So lo and behold, she was very nice about it. She was very kind, but she didn't list with me, and she went with obviously somebody else. But the point was is that just like if I could and I let her dictate what she wanted to do. I was like, well, what do you want to do here? Like, do you want to? I don't know. Do you want to list it? Like, maybe it's a good idea. Like, I don't. It was just so if I could be at that stage and then transition, let's say 10 years later, and you're able to, right? So. But
Dean,
yeah,
without that experience of what you just talked about, the uncomfortableness that you're just sitting there going, I have no clue what to do or say.
no clue. Yeah,
What you did though is you said that's never going to happen again.
correct.
And so you went back from that uncomfortableness and you said, I've got to get better or else I'm not going to make it in this business.
Mm-hmm.
So the uncomfortableness is just part of the growth process and, to being great. And you certainly are on your way there. And I would consider you are there, but so you got some daily habits now or routines that help you out. Could you talk about that now? And like you talk to so many great players in the industry from the East Coast to the West Coast to all over the world. What are some of the daily habits you think that creates not only just in great real estate in a real estate career, but in other other facets of their life?
Well, everyone follows a structure. Like this is what I've realized. Like all the interviews that I've done, like just like we're doing here, or people that I've spoken to that are top producers, and you know this as well as I do. Like, there's a structure to everyone's day. So, like, there's a schedule. If I don't follow a schedule, like the months that I have like virtually no production, which is very rare, but let's just say like in the past, when I had these ups and downs in my income, was because I would get excited, work really hard for like a month, then I would stop. Then I would do it, then I would stop. And it was like I had no structure in my day. So I think the biggest thing is the schedule. Like, when you have all the time in the world, okay, let's just assume whoever's listening to this is a full-time real estate agent. And let's say you've sold a few properties, but you have no idea. You're like, how can I even get to 25 deals, let alone 100, like Mike Slacktish or anybody that's doing things at like a big level, right? And so the first thing I do with agents now when I onboard them into the team or the company is I immediately I say, give me an hour by hour schedule on exactly what you're doing right now. I'm not going to give you any advice yet. Just tell me what you're doing right now. And then from there, then I go and I say, okay, this is what you realize everyone has 2 days in one day. I don't know if you've ever heard
Yeah.
me say this yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me more.
So people have 2 days in one day. Everyone thinks that, okay, there's one day. It's like a 24-hour thing. No, no. There's time for sleep. But you have 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. and you have 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. But what I hear from agents is the ones that are not doing that well, they wake up whatever they want. Like you hear stories of like Jeff Bezos waking up at 8 a.m. and he's like, I got a full night rest. He wasn't doing that 20 years ago when he was building freaking Amazon. He's doing it now because he's already a billionaire. He can do whatever he wants. So stop listening to everyone's advice who's already arrived, let's say. Do listen to them when they were building, when they were there. That's what you want to know. You know what I mean? So you have to wake up. I mean, honestly, if you want to be anything of substance and consequence in this business, to me, hands down, the patterns of every top agent is they're waking up before 6 a.m.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
You're in a band back then.
Yeah.
You would have had to make that transition to waking up early. Is it just like, okay, I'm getting up at 8. Now I'm just going to start getting up at 6, or do you start working your way back? What advice would you?
I mean, there's so many stories I could share. My wife and I, let me give you a quick one, really quick. My wife and I used to go on walks at 10 a.m. And then I'd say, I'll go in the office around 11, kind of like whatever, right? That was just like the band and the whole thing of like just what it was. She was my girlfriend at the time. Yeah, we didn't know anything. But all I knew is that I didn't want to do something I was going to regret not giving it a chance and, doing. So you have to make, and these again, going back to decisions. And that if there's anything I would say to myself back then, knowing what I know now, is believe in yourself more. I think there's a serious lack of belief in ourselves, like putting aside skills and systems and structure, everything else we're going to talk about today. We have a serious lack of belief in this industry, in ourselves to do the job at the highest level. And that's what stopped me for many years when I was working like a dog. Because you can work like a dog, and the most I ever did, like working 68, 70 hours a week, showing whatever, flailing, was 25 deals. And I was like, I could never get past that. And I don't know why. There's not enough hours in the day. How? And so I had to succumb, and you have to surrender to the idea that what your way is not working. My way was not working. And so there's a sense of, Mike, of a surrendership to me. And we need to surrender to this idea that you don't have all the answers. Stop trying to think that you do and come across like you do. And when you're vulnerable enough within reason, then that's when you're open to receiving the message that you need to receive. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
That's fantastic. So what I hear you saying is almost like some folks have a little bit of an ego. They need to get rid of. Some folks, you need to start developing your own self-worth. And when you're talking to,
I've talked about this. I had very severely like horrible self-worth issues. I don't know where that came from. I mean, I came from a good household and everything. I don't understand. It just
so how did you get out of that?
A lot of hard work on myself. I mean, it's been personal development is something okay, so if there's anything I'm learning now, especially in the last couple of years in leadership and coaching and these other things of the teams, is that, and you probably know this as well. There's a what they call founder's lid, meaning that like there's a lid to your organization and your company of how big you can go based on your own personal development as their leader. So if I don't grow and I stay in my own pocket of not wanting to achieve more, wanting to be more and develop myself more, then the agents that come with me are they're never gonna get to their next level. So it forces me. That's why I like leadership now, because it forces me to continue to grow. I can't just be like, yeah, I'll go to that seminar when I want. I'll study this book when I, feel like it because I'm making money. I'm doing my thing. It's like leadership forces you to grow, and so it's just something that like you have to continue to develop. And I think but I also built evidence. You know what? I was like, the whole David Goggins cookie jar thing.
Yeah.
You hear this?
I do not know what you're talking about. Tell us more.
So if you read the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, okay? And never, what is it? Never Finished, I think it's called, his second book. He talks about in the first book, the cookie jar, meaning that when you're down and out and you feeling like I feel like shit today, like I don't know, like I just feel like, when the client says no to you, you get rejected, how do you feel? If you feel that pit in your stomach, like, oh, like I got that so much. I was like, this can't be right. There's no one that is the president of the United States or the president of a company or CEO of any organization that is feeling that, because that's not sustainable. But I was so willing to live in discomfort for a long period of time that I had to figure it out. So my ability to live in discomfort to figuring it out long enough was the answer. But I feel like and so he had this cookie jar analogy, which is that, okay, so let's say in your day you get rejected and you just just wasn't your day. And you're like, you know what? I don't know. Am I really can I really do this job in real estate? Can I really make this happen? Should I go do something else? Like these questions are in people's minds. Like I know this was what happens with most agents, right? And instead, look at the cookie jar. What evidence do you have if I picked up a cookie jar? Oh, damn, Dean, you ran three full marathons. Oh wow, Dean, you ran 7 half marathons, and your father told you could never get a six-pack, and you did. Okay, cookie jar, right? Oh, Dean, you can never be signed to an indie label when you were 19 years old and toured the country. Oh, but I did that, right? It's like you can never list whatever it is, and all these things that you have done in your past should result in something. Or hey, I've been a great mother, I've been a great father, I've been something amazing, and so that's your cookie jar. So anytime that you're developing yourself, this cookie jar analogy was great. I just keep picking up things. I'm like, you know what? I am a badass. I really I shouldn't be feeling this way because I'm a certain a certain way here. So
you're putting a lot of your wins into this jar.
Yeah.
And then you're referring back to it to help your mindset get out of that.
Yeah.
Go through the clouds and wake up the next day with the same vigor you woke up that day with.
And can I actually, I'm going to call the elephant out in the room that I don't know who the audience is here, I'll be honest, but if it's any agents in your company or if it's in other pockets of where we are, look, all I'm going to say is that stop trying to look good when you don't know anything. You have to be okay with a little bit of you have to be vulnerable enough to not have all the answers. And that's okay. Is that I think that people put on these facades, Mike, you know what I mean? Like newer agents or, anything else. And that when you're trying to learn, like even for me, 2 years ago, when I started my journey in leadership, I never did this. Yeah. I never phone warriors and all this other stuff. It was like, why am I doing this? But I was vulnerable enough to be like, all right, well, this is what I want to do. So I don't have any answers, actually. I'm not a Tina Call. I'm not a Michelle. I'm not a Mike Slacktish. I'm not any of these people that have already been doing it for a long period of time in leadership. So I guess I'm just going to step into it and see what happens. And
that brings up a great point, Dean. I think sometimes we start, there's that old saying, you're the aggregate of the 5 people you hang around with. So when you go to these events that you and I originally spoke, you're around people that are actually performing at a higher level. You're seeing like, wow, I guess I haven't made it. And the ability that what you're doing is really talking to them and going, okay, how can I adapt? What changes can I make in my world to really push us further? And you're getting ideas. And I think on some levels, it's probably how you develop the Form Warriors. And
I think, yeah, I mean, but it took, but at the time that I did it, I was still with another coaching company that we were with all before, and
yeah,
they were not, that wasn't a good thing. Like, don't be distracted. Why are you gonna build something else? Like, don't do that. Like, you're doing great. Keep on doing that. And I was gonna regret it if I didn't do it when I did it. You know what I mean? Because I knew that I've always wanted to have another, like a real business outside of just production and sales.
yeah,
Like there's got to be something, not just team and brokerage, and I get all that, but I'm talking like something else. But I needed to find something that was going to complement my skill set and my efforts and still not affect my day where I got to I'm not building the next Airbnb here, but it's like I wanted to have something of that sort where it can scale to another level. And we're nowhere near where we want to be. And we're just about to roll out some great things. But
we'll talk a little bit about what Phone Warriors is, because the audience really has no idea what
okay.
Phone Warriors
So
do. And
let's put it this way. So Phone Warriors is a it's a community of agents that can log into a Zoom anytime, anywhere in the country, even Canada now, and prospect with other agents. And the way we look at it, Rich and I, we look at it like this is the first ever that I've ever seen national level virtual uh, like gym membership for agents that want to prospect, if that makes sense.
yeah,
It's like, it's a virtual gym. In other words, when you go to a gym, you pay a small little fee per month. You just go in whenever you want and you're around some meatheads, you're some, moms, whatever, and you're doing your thing. Well, that's what this is. And then we have upgrades now. We're going to have a group coaching calls. I'm going to have other coaching. So there's other things that are now going to develop outside of now this core that we've developed for 2 years. And it's grown. Like the funny part is, we started with 2 people prospecting, me and Rich. Then it was Emily. Then it was Tomas. And then it just kept going. And then it kept going. And now we have 30 to 35 people on a given day in the morning, especially on the East Coast, that are now prospecting at a high level consistently. And I can see people getting better. Like
right,
people are legitimately getting better. One of them is in my own market. He's my competition, and I'm okay. You know what? I don't care. That's what a testament that
yeah.
whatever he's listening to with either me or Rich or someone else, that he is getting that much better. So
Well,
that's
what's interesting about that too is you if you're an agent out there, you get to go on and you get to be around people who are doing things that others won't do. And that's a big part of success. You got to do what others won't so you can have what others can't. And so by getting on there, you're listening. And a lot of people just go on there just to listen to hear, what does this person say? And what's interesting in being on there, Dean, it's in your mind, you create this image like, oh, this person must be saying all the right magic words.
yeah.
And really, it's not. They're just
There is
conversations.
that isn't that so funny that right? Like that when you peel back the onion of what it actually is, you think that there's Mike is saying something brilliant or Dean is saying something that much better. I mean, yeah, you can have better word tracks or better frameworks of how you're speaking and communication style, but really not that like you look at it, you're like, I can do this. Like this is not as hard as I thought. But why am I not doing it? Why am I so scared to pick up the phone and dial and make something happen? So the community was built because we saw there is a big hole and a big void of agents that never want to prospect alone because they okay. Every team leader, every company, what do they say, Mike? Pick up the phone and make your contacts and call your leads, right? Okay, well, what if you don't have a supporting community around you or a team or some area? Well, That's what I kind of hope the phone wears is filling that void. Hey, log into this because you'll never be alone making your dials when your team leader or your brokerage or your coach wants you to do it because your brokerage doesn't have people going in. They're not top producers. Now you have top producers, coming into the phoneware community that is going to be prospecting with you.
Right, right.
So
And Dean, I'll tell you what, I was on your call the other day, your coaching call, and it was amazing. And I'm making notes feverishly writing things down. And one of the things I think you said too was timing. Sometimes a call is not necessarily what you said, it's just you happen to catch the person at the right time.
yeah, yeah,
And
timing, and that's one of the myths that we have in this business that you hear about. Oh, I have a certain closing tie down or closing technique to get them to sign every single time. Actually, your timing is is more important than the closing words that you use. But that happens with experience, Mike, right? So it's like, this is an experience thing to know when this lead is ready to sign a contract. And I think that's the biggest thing. So to me, I'm much more concerned about timing than I ever am about, the right words to say in a particular situation to get them to be like, yes, I'm going to go with you. It never, do you realize it never goes that? I mean, to me, it never goes that way.
it never goes that way.
They usually say, okay, what should we do next, Mike? They're not saying to you, hey, you won the business, congratulations, and there's confetti coming from the ceilings. We all want it to happen.
Right.
But it doesn't happen that way. So, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And they're saying no in different manners, and you're overcoming that and you're learning that. So I'm just curious. I mean, you're looking at phone wearers now going on 2 years. Is there one particular success that's really stood out to you in that 2 years?
Like of an agent in that
Of
group?
an agent or someone who's just started, and next thing you know, they're there for 2 years.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. So one of my partners, he's a team member now. Funny, it's crazy how this goes. He found me on Phone Warriors, okay, and he ended up joining my organization where my company, with my firm and everything, and he's like, I'm just gonna take a chance. And literally, this was a year ago, okay, a year ago. He was he was like, whatever you're doing, it seems to be working. You're still having success and everything like that, Dean. And he was a good producer, like in 19 years in the business, like a really good producer, but he was stuck for some reason at 125,000 GCI. I'm actually going to interview him next week on the on our podcast.
Awesome.
And he went from 3 years in a row with another company, 125,000 GCI, could not break that ceiling. And last year, take a guess at how much he made last year, GCI to him.
Would love to know. What do you do?
525. So
Small shift. It's just a small shift, right?
It's like I make a joke now and I say, guys, you know what I am to the whole team and the whole organization? I'm your chiropractor. I'm gonna make tiny adjustments and I'm gonna just tweak you in different ways to get you feeling like, oh, okay, I'm clear now. Let me go about my day, right?
But I'm curious because that's one incredible story. So how do you create that winning culture for your team? And
Well,
how
the
do
funny
you?
part is he wasn't even on my team. I gave him so much time because I'm not in it. The thing is, okay, I realized if you want to make a lot of money, don't do a team, okay? Or don't do like a brokerage or whatever. Like that doesn't make a lot of money. You get time back eventually, but you don't get like you can make a lot of money when you scale. That's a different story. When you have 60 people on the team, when you have 100, then you're making money. But when I'm right now in this messy middle, dude, I made $3,000. Like that's how the revenue share thing model works, right? It was nothing. Okay. But it's because I'm building the right tribe and the right community. So what I'm saying is so the question is, how did he get there? Okay, it goes back to belief, what I said before. He had all the mechanics, he had the skill set. I just had to make him believe in himself again.
Yeah.
That's it. Like he had his lack of belief because he went to a different area of New Jersey. It was like a different thing. He wasn't sure. And I was like, dude, like you got the goods. What are we talking about? Hey, dude, say it this way instead of this way. Hey, use the ARP method that I teach the agents. Use the plan method that I teach my agents. Systematize your lead gen. Systematize your lead conversion. And you probably know now of me, everything I do is systematized. If you don't have a system for something, you are toast. You are toast because you are going to get well, if the people that get run over in the business are the ones that don't have a system. You're getting run over by agents that because I we've all heard agents on the panels. I'm like, I heard you prospect. You're not that much better than I am. What are you doing to do this kind of production?
Yeah.
And then it's like they just have mint systems in place.
Well, it's interesting that you say all this, Dean, and there really is no uncovering big. There's no magic word. There's no magic bullets. It's about putting in the effort, and voila, it does appear in front of you. I mean, I keep hearing you say word blind faith. So you and I both have done some coaching throughout the years. We've been coached, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
and talk about that for a second because was that blind faith? Because that wasn't cheap for you either.
Um, Blind faith. No, blind faith. It was there's no other options, you know. Like I think I was lucky enough to be put in a position where there was no other options. It was either succeed or that's it. But I
Okay.
also knew because I mean I even me with my mother being who she is today, she was a successful agent as well. And like how could I not make it? It's just so weird. My own mother's an agent and I can't even figure this out. No, I
Yeah.
didn't join my mother's team. I'm not part of her organization. I'm not
Yeah.
nothing. I built my own stuff. So
So we're going to be wrapping up here, Dean. So
yeah.
what we're talking winner's code. We're talking what drives a champion. We're
Mhm.
talking what is Dean's definition of success?
Oh, that's easy. It's doing what you want when you want and how you want. It's having those options. That to me is success. It's like if I want to go spend time with my kids right now, I want to do that. If I want to go do something else, it's like having those options. But it's also, I mean, it's a loaded question because you know there's so much to it. But you know that's the like the crux of it. And if there's any one piece of advice I can give to anyone listening to this that comes across this interview, if there's anything I can share, um, if you're only working for money, you need a different motivation to drive you. I think that if money is driving you, at some point it's going to fizzle out. Because I did that for many years, and I achieved what I thought was going to make me feel a certain way. And then I got it, and then I was like, my life got better, have more options. Yes, but then I'm not chasing it. Was like this whole complacency set in, and I was like, that's worse than working and grinding. Like if you have serious complacency, that is to me even more of a failure than anything else that you can't there's no other goal to strive for. There's nothing else. Well, hence why I'm doing leadership now, I guess, you know.
It's interesting because you climbed the top of the mountain, and what I hear you saying, the journey was worth the climb. But you get to the top, and what you recognize is that there's another mountain on the other side that you need to continue to climb as well. So you're reaching levels, Dean, that I see every day that you just continue to climb and climb. And it's truly so excited for you. So one last question I have for you, and then I'm so appreciative of your time. Favorite book?
Oh,
If you told someone like, hey, this should be the book, because what you talked about today was a mindset, was how to get better, blind faith. And most of us read, we don't watch the news. So what's a great book that you would, hey, you gotta start here.
yeah. Actually, give me a second. I'm actually gonna pull up my Audible and I'm gonna because I usually do a physical book and then I also do um but I've read some really good stuff in the past and I'm sure you have too. So the
I think
best
it's when you look at winners, and that's what they're
yeah.
doing. They're really
I have
always
so many
putting.
books. There's just so many. I mean, but books are also a. Oh, here's one. I read this only 2 years ago, by the way. It wasn't like it was like 15 years ago. The Mindset of a Sales Warrior.
Okay.
If there's any
Nice.
book that any agents listening to this that would want to do, it's a, you know the classics, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Fine, you can hear all that stuff. But as far as sales goes, I think if there's any book I would give to anybody, it would be it would be The Mindset of a Sales Warrior. There's a number of books, but that one, if I had to pick one, that would be one I would give to an agent that wanted an overview of how I think.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time. Dean, if someone's on the list right now, they want to join
Yeah.
your group, how do they go about joining your group? We'll put a link at the bottom.
Yeah, so you just DM me on, you go to my Instagram at Dean Clark Group, or you can email me, dean@deanclarkgroup.com, or just call or text me, 201-240-8319. And yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody that, they want to get some ideas of what to do.
That is awesome. Well, again, we appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you at our next event, Dean, and sharing a cocktail with you, and just sharing some more stories of how you're doing and how you're doing how you're going to grow your company. So thank you, and
Awesome.
see you around.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.